I declare war. So I'm back, y'all. I'm going to post regular content on this channel, so you all look out for videos from me. I saw a video on Facebook, and that's what inspired me to do this live stream right now. So I'm going to give people a couple of minutes to tune in. Also, I want to let you all know that I will be putting a lot of my videos back on public, so you can expect to see those soon. I put on a few of them back on public. They are back up, but I plan to go through all my videos. Hopefully by tomorrow, most of my videos will be back on public, so you all can watch those videos again and support this channel. So I'm going to give you all a couple of minutes to tune in. But I saw this interesting and provocative video on Facebook, and I felt the need to get on here and respond to it on YouTube. It's a video done by David Carroll, and someone posted it. One of my friends on Facebook posted this video, and when I saw it, I was like, why is this person posting this nonsense? You know, this complete, utter foolishness. So when I watched it, I said, I have to respond to this. And this is an uncut type of message. You know, usually when this guy, David Carroll, does his videos here on YouTube, he has a censored version, you know, a clean version, and then he has this underground set of videos that he does for his supporters. And basically, people have to send him their email addresses, and he sends them the link to the videos. And apparently, this may be one of those videos, or it may be an older video before he started to tone down his rhetoric. But I plan to dissect the video. I'm going to play it and then stop at certain segments and provide my commentary. So, you know, I want to thank those people who are tuning in. Shout out to Simply Deep 1985. Shout out to you. Thanks for tuning in. And I'm just going to get started. I'm going to jump right into it. You know, I'm going to share my screen. Just wanted to show my face for a second, but I'm going to turn the camera off. And I'm going to share my screen so that you all can see the video that I'm talking about. Let's see if there's a way for me to do this. Just bear with me a second. I think a lot of people already know my name on here, so I'm going to go ahead and share this Facebook page. So y'all just bear with me a second. So this is the video right here. And this video is entitled "Single Black Mothers Created the Modern Day Ghetto." And before I play this video, I want to just provide a response to the title alone. Single Black mothers did not create the modern day ghetto. The ghetto existed before you had the situation where the traditional family, the nuclear family, has eroded. You know, so the ghetto pre-exists the erosion of the Black family. It pre-exists the situation where you have a large percentage of single Black mothers. So single Black women could not have possibly created the modern day ghetto. So that's the first point. The second point is this. A single mother doesn't become a single mother by herself. You know, women do not have children alone. There has to be a man involved in the picture somewhere. A woman has to lay down and have sex with a man in order to procreate. So if a ghetto is created because of single parent households, the Black man is equally to blame for that situation. He's equally to blame because he laid down with that particular woman. He's equally to blame because he didn't maintain a relationship with that woman. He's equally to blame because he did not maintain a relationship with his children. So if a ghetto is created by single parent households, then obviously the man had some kind of role to play in that phenomenon. So what I'm going to do right now is play this video, and I'm going to pause it at certain parts to provide my commentary. So let's go.
Raise your hand if you're married. None of you are married. Raise your hand if you would like to be married to your baby's father. One. The rest of you don't plan to get married. Why don't you plan to get married? I'd like to know that.
You already have your child to think about, and then a whole family to care for. You know, it's a lot of responsibility, and then you don't want the commitments.
I don't want no man holding me down because I think I can make it as a single parent.
But don't you think you might need help in raising that baby from a man?
Not really. I didn't have a father. My father wasn't in the room, so you know it really male figures are not substantially important in the family.
Y'all know this. I've been very thorough with this in many.
Okay, so I want to address that point. You know, the first thing I want to say about this is this. You know, what this person is doing who's created this video is they're taking these extreme examples and trying to use them to make generalizations about Black women. I know that most Black women do not think this way. They're not thinking, well, I want to be a single parent. I know that most Black women don't think that way. They want to have a family. You know, they want to have a man involved in their lives. You know, most Black women are not thinking, well, let me rush out here and become a single parent. I don't think that most women are thinking that way. And, you know, obviously that kind of mentality of thinking that you can go alone and just have children and raise them by yourself, obviously that's a wrong mentality. Obviously that's a dysfunctional mentality. Obviously it is better for a child to be raised in a two-parent household. It's better for the man to have a key role in his children's life. So obviously I refute that kind of perspective, but the thing that I really have an issue with is when people try to present a few examples and try to use that as some kind of use it as a means to make generalizations about women as a whole, as a collective, Black women in particular. I think that that's wrong. Again, I don't think that this reflects the mentality of most Black women. Most Black women would rather have a man present in their children's lives. So let's continue on.
My video. Bitch, you were the one that sided with the white feminists. You sided with welfare policies. You said that you can rear these men, these boys into manhood. This is what you said, Black y'all.
See, and this is the one thing. I mean, listen to the language that this guy is using. I mean, it's a language of hatred. It's a language of hostility. You know, it's a misogynistic type of language where he's referring to these women as bitches and heifers and, you know, other kinds of derogatory terms. So he is not speaking out of some kind of compassion for the Black community. You know, so that's the first thing. You got to understand what kind of angle this particular person is coming at. They're coming at an angle of hatred. They're coming at an angle of misogyny towards women. So this is not somebody that's genuinely concerned about the plight of Black communities and Black families. So that's off the top. The other thing is this, man. You know, this idea that somehow Black women were aligned with the feminist movement and that somehow Black women were so eager to be on public assistance. I mean, it is absolutely absurd. It is absurd to suggest that Black women were eager to be on public assistance and eager to kick the man out. Public assistance does not provide the bare necessities. I mean, people are barely able to make it off of public assistance. That is not some kind of way of getting over on anybody. That is a struggle being on public assistance. It is a struggle just getting the bare necessities, barely being able to feed your family on food stamps, barely able to get the adequate health care and dental care and eye care and all that kind of stuff. on public assistance. So this idea that black women were just waiting for this free money and free ride and all that kind of stuff is absolutely absurd. You know, many of the people that depend on public assistance depend on it to survive. You know, they don't have any other options. They don't have an education. They don't have job opportunities. It is like a life vest to preserve their life during difficult times. And a lot of these people that talk about public assistance are people that don't even know anybody on public assistance, they have no experience with what public assistance is like. But yet they want to speak on it like they have so much authority and they know what they're talking about when they don't. Anybody in their right mind understands that these women are not trying to get over on the system. You know, these people conveniently want to focus on black women being on welfare, but these people conveniently fail to focus on people who have cheated welfare. And many of these people who are welfare cheats and welfare frauds are white people. Just like you had this case involving that woman, Rachel Dolezal, getting on food stamps when she's making money, when she has no, you know, she's been accused of committing fraud. And you have all these other examples of white people committing welfare fraud, but yet none of these men that hate the black woman so much, they don't want to even mention that kind of stuff. They conveniently omit that kind of stuff. And they want to focus on poor black women, bashing poor black women. That's what they want to do. You know, so again, you know, the idea that these women are just looking to get over on welfare is absurd, because that's not enough. You know, it's barely enough to survive off of. You know, so that's the one thing. And then, you know, as the sister Lashid for you pointed out, like she's done many videos basically pointing out how this whole idea that black women were aligned with the white feminist movement is absurd. You know, there are examples of them talking about how they didn't get that much support from black women. You know, black women are not out there marching. We're not out there marching in droves behind some white feminist movement. And the white feminist movement has absolutely very little to do with the erosion of the black family. The black family is not falling apart because some white feminist forced the man out of the household. That's not why the family is falling apart. You have a change in values. You have the erosion of traditional values. That's partly to blame for the destruction of the black family. You have this player mentality that a lot of brothers have bought into, this idea that you're the man if you got multiple women, that you're the man if you have multiple baby mothers, that you're some kind of boss or some kind of player if you got a lot of women. That's celebrated in today's culture. That kind of mentality is glamorized in today's culture. So that's partly to blame for, you know, these problems that we see in terms of the erosion of the nuclear family in the black community. So let's continue on. And first I'm going to look at the comments. Hold on. I'm going to continue playing to this video, and then I'm going to look at your comments in the chat room. So just bear with me a second.
This is what you said. Now we see what you've done, and it's clearly you haven't done that. So now if we're going to talk about who's to blame for this shit, it's your black ass. It's your ignorant black ass. You can't hide from this. But you got these whores running around now claiming that we're marching against police brutality, and these cops are fucking up these black men because these illogical, argumentative black men are confronting these cops with the same way that you see these niggas on YouTube constantly arguing back and forth, thinking that if I completely argue with you, I'm gonna show you where you wrong, and I'm gonna win the debate. You ain't gonna win no debate with no cop guy. You're not gonna win that. And a man understands this. And I told y'all, this is what you learn when you have a father in the home. You don't have to always like what your dad say, but you learn to respect that authority. He's the one in charge. I don't like what he said, but goddammit, I ain't gonna say nothing too good. This is his shit. You sitting there arguing with a guy who has the license to put handcuffs on you, to arrest you, to shoot you, to ultimately kill you. This is who you argue with. And instead of you just saying, listen, this is an argument that I'm not going to win, so therefore I'm not going to engage in. No, you think you can change people. This is why you niggas sit back and argue all the time on YouTube, on Facebook.
All right, so I just want to address this whole point about the police. Like, the main thing that he's suggesting is that these mothers are not raising their sons properly, and because of that, they get in these situations where they end up being victims of police brutality. So he's basically shifting the burden away from society, away from these police departments, away from the actual police officers who kill Black people, and he's placing that burden on a Black woman for basically not raising her sons to respect authority. And, you know, the first thing I have to say about this is, you know, number one, the man's absence plays a huge role in how children are raised, you know, so that's number one. So you can't place the burden of a child coming up and not having guidance solely on the woman. You have to place it on the man who is absent from the house as well. The second point is this, man. A lot of these police killings do not involve situations where Black men are confronting the police. It doesn't involve that. It's not a situation where a Black man is, you know, challenging authority or anything like that. A lot of times these brothers are running away from the police. You know, they're not threatening the police. They're not challenging the police. They are running away from the police, and they end up being shot in the back multiple times by these police. Just like Walter Scott was shot and killed by the police, just like that brother Stephon Clark was shot and killed. Walter Scott was running from the police, and that police officer pumped multiple shots in that brother's back. Just like those pigs in California killed that brother Stephon Clark, shooting him in his back. They didn't even have a chance to react. They didn't have a chance to comply and all this and that. I mean, they were gunned down. These people were not confronting the police, attacking the police, challenging the police. They were running away from the police, and they were killed by the police. So this is not a situation, you know, many times it's not a situation where somebody is fighting with the police or arguing with the police. Like Philando Castile, that brother was trying to comply with what the police officer said, you know, he tried to go above and beyond his responsibilities by letting the police officer know that he had a gun in his glove compartment or something. And that police officer panicked and shot that brother multiple times, killing him. And the whole thing was recorded on Facebook Live. We had a situation, there are many situations where these brothers end up dead. And even in situations where a brother does not comply with the police or whatever, that does not give those police a license to kill them. You know, just because Eric Garner, for instance, asked the police why are they harassing him? You know, why are they bothering him over some cigarettes? His mere questioning of those police should not result in that brother being choked to death by the police. Live on camera, nothing happened. That should not happen in this country. There is no excuse for what those police did. So, but instead of addressing the systemic racism in these police departments, instead of dealing with that, instead of dealing with excessive use of force, instead of dealing with a system that allows these stinking pigs to get away with killing our people, you have these buck dancing Negroes that want to place the entire burden of the problem of police brutality on the backs of the Black woman. And I think that that is an act of cowardice. You know, these people don't have the courage. They don't have the conviction. They don't have what it takes to stand up to police brutality and to stand up to these police departments and these people in positions of authority, to stand up to the criminal justice system. So instead of doing that, instead of attacking the system that's attacking Black men, these weak-minded Black men want to attack the woman when they should be trying to protect the woman and trying to protect the community from these brutal police, these police that kill our people with impunity. So let's continue on.
Because you Negroes are argumentative, y'all effeminate, y'all soft, y'all behave just like this Black bitch. Because that's what this Black bitch does. And you look at these savages. I mean, you got these apes who don't do anything but sit back all day, every day, and fuss back and forth.
Now, I mean, listen to how this guy talks. I mean, he's calling black men savages. He's calling black men apes. I mean, this man sounds like one of those neo-Nazis. This man sounds like one of those alt-right idiots. He sounds like one of those white supremacists. And unfortunately, some of our people are so deeply programmed. They suffer from Stockholm syndrome that they begin to adopt the mentality of the oppressor. They have begun to adopt the language of the oppressor. They begin to adopt the hatred that the oppressor has, the same hatred that the oppressor has towards black men and black people. These Stockholm syndrome Negroes adopt that same kind of hostility towards their own people because these people are lost. Now, I understand that there are issues in our community. I understand that you have to deal with personal responsibility. But these types of people, like this man, David Carroll, who is doing this video, they are filled with self-hatred. They are filled with hostility and animosity towards their own people. It's one thing to believe in accountability. It's quite another thing to stoop to a low level where you are using white supremacist terminology towards your own people. That's a reflection of a pathological mindset. It definitely is. Of course, there are things that people can do different in terms of how they interact with the police. You know, obviously somebody should comply with reasonable instructions from the police to avoid giving these police any kind of excuse to kill them or to harm them. Of course, you have to deal with that. But let's not turn a blind eye to the crimes that these police are committing against our people. Let's not turn a blind eye to the violence that these people are committing against our people. I mean, it's just funny how these people will use words of respect when referring to the police that kill us, but then use the most vitriolic words against their own black women and black people.
Shine will fuss with other black men. I mean, when you look at it, you see it as a microcosm of what's wrong with black men in America. The fact
and one thing that I want to talk about is just like the imagery in this video, like this imagery it projects all these pathological images of black men fighting, black men engaged in thuggery and all that kind of stuff. It's designed to trigger your emotions so that you're no longer thinking rational and you start to view the black woman as some kind of evil demon that's destroying the black community and leading young black men astray and all that kind of stuff. I mean, there are obviously, again, personal issues that our black community has to deal with, but we got to get away from trying to demonize our women and demonize our people and, projecting these racist viewpoints toward our own people.
These shines don't know when to walk away. The fact that these shines are constantly fussing and arguing, because this is the same behavior that they exude when they confront a cop. And I've told these niggas, listen, I'm not arguing with no cop. If you're going to write me a ticket, write me a ticket. If you're going to arrest me, arrest me. Here's my ID. I'm not sitting here arguing with you. I'm not going back and forth.
Again, like most of these cases don't involve people arguing with the police. Often these people are killed by the police before they even have a chance to present an argument. I mean, a lot of times, in a lot of these cases, police kill black men within seconds upon arriving on the scene. All we have to do is look at the situation involving Tamir Rice. Those police arrived on that scene and within seconds, they gunned down that young brother, a 12-year-old black boy, gunned down. And you had another situation where police fired like an automatic rifle in the back of a car, killing an unarmed black boy. You have all these types of situations. So instead of dealing with these fundamental problems, you have people like this Negro wanting to buy into this respectability politics, this idea that if black people were on their best behavior, if they, you know, pulled their pens up and listened to the police and this and that, if they somehow nothing would happen to them. There was a situation where this brother, I think it was in Florida, he had his hands in the air. He was laying on the ground, completely complying with the police officer's instructions, and still the police shot that brother. They shot that brother. And we have examples of this over and over again, where you have black men with their hands up being shot by these pigs. But yet you have people like this Negro believing that somehow if you behave, if you're a good Negro, then Mr. Charlie will leave you alone and police brutality will magically disappear. It's pure nonsense.
With you, it's not going to happen. I don't understand my rights, so I don't want to say anything. I want to talk to a lawyer. That's how I'm going to run that. I'm not sitting here debating with you, fussing with you, arguing with you. I'm not doing that shit. But these black men, for some odd reason, believe that if I argue with this cop, if I fuss with this cop, I can get this cop to change. And that's the way this black bitch thinks. And I told y'all this. This black bitch will argue with you from 6 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night, constantly trying to prove herself right, trying to convince you that you are wrong so that you can side with her. And for this black bitch to now talk about, I'm going to hold a march. And I'm going to march on Washington because I'm tired of cops shooting and killing my black men. When, bitch, you're the one that fucked up these black men.
Yeah, I mean, that's just absolutely absurd. I mean, this idea that it's all the black woman's fault. I mean, this is just ridiculous, man. And I don't understand how any rational person could place all the blame of police brutality on the black woman's back. I think that is the coward's way out. That's the weak way out. And I think it's intellectually dishonest. You know, it ignores history. It ignores the reality of these police. You know, the police have been killing black people before you had a large percentage of single parent households in black communities. The police, since their founding, they have been used as a tool of oppression against black people. You know, they were killing black people when black people didn't have their pants hanging down. They were killing black people when black people were wearing suits and ties. They were beating black people when black people were dignified, marching non-violently against civil rights violations. These pigs will kill and harm our people regardless of how our people behave. And that's just something that David Carroll and these other people just simply cannot understand. They are unable to connect those historical dots, as this guy always says.
The reason why these black men are soft, illogical, weak, can't connect dots, argumentative, catty, backbite, just like a heifer. The reason why these brothers behave like that is because of your black ass.
No, I mean, the reason why they behave like that is because of the absence of a strong black male presence in their life. And, you know, that's on the black man. You know, you can blame the mother for not raising the kid as long as you want to, but the absence of that father as a guiding light for that child, you know, the absence of a strong male in the household, the absence of strong male leadership, obviously that allows these kids not to grow up with an idea of what it means to be a man. That creates a situation where they are not operating based on reason and logic. They're operating based on their emotions. And they have a distorted sense of manhood. You know, a manhood concept is shaped by the media that tells them that a man is a thug or a man is a player or a man is a pimp, a drug dealer, and all that kind of stuff. When they don't have a real male role model, television becomes their role model. When they don't have a real male role model, the drug dealer, the neighborhood drug dealer, and the neighborhood gangster, and all these negative forces become their role models. So you have to look at the entire picture and stop like having a narrow-minded, narrow focus solely on the role of the woman in that situation. Obviously, the mother has a role in the rearing of children, but we cannot de-emphasize the role that the father plays in this situation as well. Even if a father is not with the baby's mother, you know, that father still should be involved in that child's life. That father should be there to shape that child's life, to guide that child, to provide a real breathing example of what manhood looks like. And that absence plays just as an important role as a mother not properly guiding her son. And even a mother that has good intentions, you know, a lot of single parent mothers are able to raise kids that grow up to be functional, that grow up to, you know, lead productive lives and be productive citizens and all that kind of stuff. But a mother cannot do everything alone. You know, she needs to have a man playing some kind of role in her son's life so that he can understand what manhood looks like. So even if the mother is at fault, you know, there's a role for the father to play. There's a responsibility that that father has in the upbringing of that child. And that's something that a lot of these misogynists ignore. They ignore the component where the black man has a role in this whole situation. And that's just a general lack of accountability. It seems like a real man would be about accountability and responsibility, taking responsibility for his community instead of placing the blame on his woman. You know, these men, they claim to be about patriarchy, but yet they want to blame the woman for the condition of the community. If you really believe in patriarchy, you would believe that it's the man's primary responsibility to lead the community, to maintain the community, to protect the community, to provide for the community. And when that is not happening, then you would place the primary responsibility on the one who's supposed to take on that role. That's what you would do. So let's continue on with this video.
You can't hide from this. You can have a million marches. It won't make no difference until your black ass is ready to stand up and say, you know what? I own up to what I've done. I fucked this shit up. Now, when you're ready to admit that, then we can work on some shit. But as long as you heifers want to run around here talking about it's somebody else's fault, y'all marching against police brutality, bitch, you need to be marching against yourself and your other black bitches, because they are the reason why these black men are fucked up.
Yeah, so I think I made my point about this. You know, I don't want to be redundant. So I'm going to go to your comments and close this out. I didn't want to make this a long video. I just saw this nonsense on my Facebook news feed, and I just felt like venting, man. I'm just like, how could anybody promote this nonsense, man? Why would anybody share this foolishness? Because, you know, obviously this guy is, you know, distorted in his viewpoint. You know, obviously he is skewed in his perspective. Obviously he's ignoring, like, you know, history and ignoring facts and all that kind of stuff, ignoring policing policies, you know, discriminatory policing policies that have been documented. The Department of Justice has done investigations in cities like Baltimore and Ferguson and Cleveland and other places, and they have documented systemic racist policing practices that lead to black people being stopped and harassed more by police, that lead to black people being subjected to excessive use of force and police brutality. But all that stuff, you know, he's just going to ignore all that stuff, all those studies, all those reports, all those investigations, and point his finger at the black woman. So let me just stop sharing this because, you know, it gets to be redundant. You know, this guy keeps repeating himself. So I'm going to look at what you all have to say before I close out. Just bear with me a second. I'm going to do these shout outs. Yeah, so for people that don't know, I'm going to be back on this channel doing these hangouts. And I'm going to post up my content. I'm going to put my videos back on public so people could watch them, as I told you all before. And OJ for Hire said, don't get these chicks pregnant in the first place, fellas. It's simple. Exactly. I mean, a woman doesn't get pregnant on her own, man. These women are not having children through immaculate conception. And that's how these people act. Like when they put out this, misogynistic commentary, they act like the woman just, gave birth to these children on her own with no man involvement at all. And that's just absolutely ridiculous. And the mere fact that you have brothers that have these children, we have to take responsibility, man. We have to realize that we have power to, use birth control if we don't want to have children and stuff like that. And even if we do have children, we have a moral responsibility and a legal responsibility to take care of the children that we have. We can't sit back and say, well, I'm not going to be involved in these children's lives, but yet I'm going to blame the mother for how they turn out. That's just nonsense. And Rose Marie said that it's like kicking those who are already down. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is. You have these women who, the poor women that were featured in the beginning part of the video. Basically you had these guys like trampling on them and trampling on women in general, bashing women. And I think that that's cowardly, as I said before, to attack women, but you're not going to attack the police that are killing Black men. That feeds into this narrative that some women are putting out here about Black men being weak, Black men being, unaccountable. It feeds that narrative. And Rose Marie said, the males who are always blaming single mothers for all Black people's ills are bitter because they have been bitten by child support. I mean, I think that that's true for a lot of, some of them have been, they have to pay child support and they're hostile because of that. And I know child support is a major issue in our community, and I may do a video on that alone. Shout out to Psycho, peace to you. Yeah, that's a good point, Psycho. I mean, redlining is the origin of the modern day ghetto. It's public policy, that led to the creation of the ghetto. It's segregation that led to the creation of the ghetto. It's not, the mere fact that you have single mothers. That's just ridiculous. Anybody that opens a history book understands this. They understand that they had a system in place to confine Black people to the ghetto. They had a system in place to make it impossible for Black people to buy homes in more prosperous, affluent communities, thereby regulating Black people to the ghettos. That's how you had the ghettos created. Then you had that was another form of segregation. So segregation, this redlining and all that kind of stuff, that is where the ghetto comes from. But yet you have somebody that has the audacity to title a video, "Single Black Women Created the Ghetto." I mean, that's just ridiculous, man. And Rose Marie said that interactions with the police can go from 0 to 100 real quick. Yeah, I mean, like most of these cases, like I mentioned before, involve the police arriving on the scene, and within seconds they kill a Black man. More often than not, it's a Black man that's killed by these police. As pointed out in the Washington Post study, as I cite over and over again, I think it was 2015, they noted that Black men make up 40% of those unarmed people killed by the police, even though Black men make up like 6% of the US population. If you don't see the systemic nature in that horrifying statistic, then you are blind, deaf, and dumb. The conservative, they like to blame all the problems that exist in the Black community on Black pathology. They don't like to deal with the systemic causes of the problem. They don't like to deal with that. They don't like to deal with the structural problems that create a situation where you have what they call Black on Black violence and this and that. And although the problem of inner city violence is a major problem, we have to realize that the majority of Black men and women are not participating in that so-called Black on Black violence. The majority of Black men are not out here selling drugs and killing people. It's a minority of people who are doing that. It's a significant minority. It's a significant problem that needs to be addressed. But let's not pretend like the majority of Black men are behaving like those little segments in that video clip, because that's an outright distortion and an outright lie. That is not the state of all Black men or even the majority of Black men. That's a tiny minority within the Black community. Yeah, and he definitely could make his points without using all the profanity and insults towards Black people and Black women in particular. And he tries to do that on his major channel, like on his YouTube channel. He tries to like tone it down and whatever, but then he reveals his true self and his true feelings and thoughts on, you know, videos like this, where he's using this colorful language, calling Black women bitches and calling Black women whores and what the heifers, and, you know, calling Black men apes and shines and you know, savages, demeaning his own people. All right, so let me just go. Shout out to Ghost Rider. Tap said he sounds like a goddamn disgruntled pimp. Yeah, I mean, there's some truth to that. It does sound like pimp talk to me. Yeah, so Covina, man, said there's a need to examine factors that turned the Soul Train era Black family and community into war zones that became, came about after the 1980s. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of factors that come into play, man. You had, the influx of cocaine and crack into the Black communities, which just destroyed Black communities in a lot of ways. It created a situation where there was a financial incentive for people to get caught up into the drug lifestyle. You know, that was like it was like a cannibalistic type of economy. You know, the drug economy, you know, gave a lot of young Black men a chance to earn money real fast. But at the same time, as they were earning that money, they were earning it by selling poison to their own people. And in order to protect those earnings, they engaged in violence against their own people, against their own brothers and sisters. And in addition to that, you had the mass incarceration of people. So you had people getting killed at young ages, and you had people getting locked up in large numbers. So all this stuff contributed to the absolute destruction of the Black community. So, I mean, I think that that's partly to blame for the situation that we see in our communities. And then when you combine that with the erosion of, traditional values, the erosion of like God consciousness in our community, this was inevitable, man, this situation that you see. But yeah, I mean, that could be the subject of a whole video about like just the destruction of the Black community. I mean, there's a book by Chancellor Williams called The Destruction of Black Civilization, but someone could have like a more narrow focus on just the destruction of the Black community. And, there are, even though you have these problems of violence in certain communities, you have these problems of people selling drugs, You also have prosperous communities as well, like prosperous, successful communities. You still have Black people who are getting the education, who are doing things. You have Black entrepreneurs, Black people that are successful in various fields. And I think that too often we de-emphasize that and we want to focus on the negativity. But yeah, I just wanted to thank y'all for tuning in. I didn't want to keep y'all all night. I just had to get this out of my system when I saw this video. You know, just a reminder, I will be back on here doing videos on a regular basis. You know, I'll probably really get started like after the next 10 to 15 days. Like after this period's over with, then I'll get back doing my content. And as I've said before, I really want to do a comprehensive video on Candace Owens, you know, this up and coming Black conservative, you know, just exposing her as a phony, as a fraud, you know, as a fake conservative, as somebody that's just getting over on these, you know, gullible right-wing white people, just making money off them. So I plan to do a video on her next. That'll be the next video that I do. And I may do it as a live Google Hangout where I just comment on it live. I mean, it's easier for me to just do these videos like this because I don't have to do all this editing and all that kind of stuff and rendering. I could just put it up here live and just keep it flowing. And also I like the opportunity to hear from you. So I see I have a troll in here. And I don't understand why these trolls are so obsessed with like me supposedly supporting some YouTuber, some other YouTuber. I mean, why do you even care like who I support or who I watch videos of? And I mean, these people are so obsessed and so pathetic. I mean, you got people who basically ride somebody else's nuts, you know, spend their whole time obsessing over, you know, some YouTuber where they're following them around, you know, seeing who's watching their videos, and they're all preoccupied with this. I mean, these people are such losers that they use other people's names and images for their YouTube channels instead of like just coming as themselves and presenting their arguments as themselves. Instead, they come with childish antics and, you know, insults and all that kind of stuff. They are the Black men that David Carroll was talking about. I mean, they are that stereotypical, you know, effeminate Black man that he's talking about, man. You know, argumentative, you know, just trying to cause trouble, man. I mean, how much of a loser can somebody be when they feel the need to capture somebody else's image, use somebody else's name, and troll somebody? I mean, there's no bigger loser than that. But anyway, man, you know, I don't want to spend too much time on any trolls, but I want to thank y'all for tuning in. Shout out to BC, shout out to Psycho, shout out to Rosemarie, shout out to Covina, man, shout out to Simply Deep, and OJ for Hire, shout out to you as well. And with that, I'm going to say peace and blessings to each and every one of you. Look out for my next videos. And wow, I mean, this troll is back with another troll account. I mean, how much of a loser can somebody be to create multiple troll accounts with ridiculous names? All y'all have to do is look in this chat room and see the foolishness that I'm referring to. But with that, I'll say peace to my people, and the war continues.